before I run the test of the called orchestration, since I did a full kind of like undeploy, redeploy there, I need to go back and check my receive pipeline here, and sure enough, it is no longer the XML pipeline. So I have to remember to always reset this pipeline to XML receive. That's bit me in the past, and I remembered it this time. And so here I also have to restart the host instance, and then we're going to go drop our file and demo in. Let's just see if this is empty again. Okay, and our file to test with is here. And mostly what we're interested in looking at this time is to see how two orchestrations work together, especially on HAT. So if we come over here, refresh, you notice that this orchestration, okay, started but not finished, and the reason it hasn't finished again is our file drop, I believe. So we got to go to approval out, and we have to cut and paste this file to approval in, and then we come back here and refresh, and you can see that we still are hung here somewhere, because we still have a started, not finished. And so what we need to do is go see if we have errors. And I'm going to look first in the application event log, and I see two BizTalk errors here. What time are they? First of all, check the time. Okay, it is 10:13 on my computer, so this is the right time. Okay, this is the message that says no. When I dropped the approval back in, it said there were no subscribers. And I got two messages for some reason. Okay, so to verify that, I'm going to go back here, look at my subscriptions. See, we still have a hanging orchestration here that's waiting for ABC 123. Oh, I think I have another port problem. I think when it went to approval in, I think we also need to make sure that's an XML receive. Okay, so we're going to go to receive ports or receive locations and approval in, and let's check the pipeline. And again, sure enough, it's reset back to pass-through receive. And when it's pass-through, you can't expect correlation to work, because correlation has to have an XML file, and it has to be mapped to XML, or it could be a flat file mapped to XML. But anyway, it has to open the XML file to look at the values to see what they should be. So again, our deploy kind of messed up our pipelines here. So now that we've fixed that, we need to go kill or terminate. First of all, no, not these. We need to go to the suspended list, and let's kill the suspended items. Okay, and then we're going to go to running, and we're going to kill anything that's still running. And notice it is dehydrated here. So we terminate that. Okay, and now we're clean again. And we'll go back to map demo in, drop our file. And we're going to go to approval out and wait for the file. It's already there. Again, let's just check it out in HAT. We're at 10:16 now. And so we received a file, and orchestration got it, and it said you need approval, so it sent it to the approval directory. We cut and we paste an approval in. Come back to HAT. Give it just a second or two to maybe run. And now you can see still a problem. We still have a started here. We do have XML. Notice that we have pass-through here, and here we have XML. That's good. But it's not good that we still see started and not finished right here. So we're going to go back to the event viewer. We have two more errors. And it's the exact same error we had a minute ago. Published message cannot be routed because no subscribers were found. Okay, this can be a frustrating error. So let's recap what the reasons could be. Number one is that this approval in did not have an XML pipeline. So I'm going to go check it one more time just to be sure. Approval in, and now we have XML receive. Okay. The next possibility is the file itself didn't have the right PO number in there, but that's, in this case, should be next to impossible, because if I drop this file here, which had ABC123 and this date, then when I copied it from the approval out to approval in, it should still have that same number on it, and it should correlate back exactly correctly. So what I'd actually like to see is what was the contents of the message that came back. And two ways to do that. If we have tracking on, we could come here and say save all tracked messages, which we've done in the past here, where we save these messages to disk. And let's see if that works. And one of them was saved, but the other one wasn't. And that could be because we didn't have tracking turned on, perhaps. So our other more, to me, is a kind of a more stable way to do it is look at the trace. And so again, these are all the traces we've done today in the last few minutes or hours. So I'm going to delete all the old ones, and I'm just going to stick with the current one here. Okay, so we're looking for, let's find the trace number. We're going to go to our orchestration, and we're going to look for these numbers that we've assigned. So when I send a file out and it comes back, remember we did add this little listen logic, which should not have changed anything. But right here is a trace 2050, which you can also see over here. So we're looking for TRC 2050 in our trace file. It says not found. Let's check one more thing. Let's make sure we don't have a terminated over here. We don't. What I was looking for in a prior demo, we put a terminate if the message doesn't arrive after 2 minutes or something. But that's not the issue right now. So the question is, what traces are we getting? So let's do find trace. That's the last one was at 2040. Okay. So at 2040, we received message approved PO out. So let's go back and look at 2040 here. That's actually, we shouldn't say received, we should say here about to send, because we're going to send that message. So the message we sent, what is its purchase order number? ABC123. And this is its date. So we sent the message, and then it never came back because when I dropped it in the port, it never found its way back here. So now I think I may know what it is. Remember we had to rebind the orchestration because of the deploy issue we had, and it could be that my port names here I got backwards or something. So let's just make sure. So here we got a port called receive approve PO. So when I go back to my orchestration and look at its bindings, properties, bindings, receive map demo approved PON. That has to be right. And then there's two outbound ports, and I don't believe those are a problem unless they're backwards. Okay, if they're backwards, that could be a problem. So my names here are terribly inconsistent. Okay, that was my own mistake, and I should probably correct it here in my next deploy. So when I send a message out here, it's called send standard PO approval. So here we have send standard PO approval, and that's the out needs approval, which I believe is correct. So if we go back here to send ports, we have out needs approval, and that is the file called map demo out needs approval out. Sorry, there's even more. Okay, the needs approval PO message ID. Okay, for a while there I had the video stopped so I could research this. And let me just show you one other thing that is very kind of frustrating and aggravating. Notice my date time here is 12:52:02 on November 12th. So this is actually yesterday's date time, but notice it is 12:52. Okay? When I go look at this report here that shows me the subscriptions, and I open this and I look at the expressions here, I don't see 12:52, I see 6:52. And at first I was thinking, you know, how could my time be 6 hours off? And then it dawned on me, I'm usually in Central Time or Mountain Time. Actually, my computer clock is in Central Time right now. And so this is exactly 6 hours off between Texas time and Greenwich Mean England time, Greenwich Mean Time. Okay? So sometimes, occasionally, you will see dates that are GMT time, and that can really throw you off if you're not aware of that. Okay, so back to how we're going to debug this. It's kind of driving me crazy. We're going to go back to our receive ports, and we receive the PON. First of all, there should be no maps here. It's just a straight approval PO. We have one receive location, but I want to turn on here is tracking. All the possible tracking we can turn on. And I'm going to go ahead and restart the host just for fun. And then I'm going to go drop our file again. Actually, we want to terminate things that are running first too. We still have that one orchestration still running. Oh, I guess I don't. I thought I killed. Oh, the 2 minutes lapse. That's what happened. So after 2 minutes, remember, it terminates itself. Okay. So if we go back to hat here, we'll see the orchestration more or less self-terminated with this message that the manager did not respond after whatever it was, 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Okay, that's kind of cool. So cleared the suspended, cleared the running. No subscriptions here now. We're going to go drop our file again. Clear this trace. So I've waited about a minute here, and we're going to do the right-click Save Tracked Message. Save it again. So again, now we got 1 out of 2. So let's go to the disk and see what we actually got. So we're going to go to Hat Saved Messages, and okay, we got 2 messages here stored at 1032. And this is the first one, which is again simply our XML message, approved PO. There's our PO number, there's our date. And then let's look at the second message. This is called the context information. This is the one we'll probably use to debug this issue. So since it's XML, I want to open it in the browser, and easier to read here basically. So I want to know three things. Just double check if the promoted fields are here. So we're looking for that ABC123, and it's not there. Very interesting, huh? So how can it match back to the subscription if it doesn't have the promoted field? So if we've lost our promoted fields, that would explain why it's not correlating. Then the next question would be, why did we lose our promoted fields here? I'm just doing a quick scan here with my eyeballs to see what I see. Very interesting. Let me think about this. Okay, so let's try looking at the same data from a slightly different vantage point. So we're going to go back to BizTalk admin. We're going to go look at our suspended messages, and we can open it here. And then here you'll see the cannot route it type message, routing failure. And then here you'll see the message, and you can click on it. And this should show us roughly the same thing that we just stored on the disk. But I just want to verify. So here's a thing called context. And if I search here for type, promoted or not promoted, see here you do see the PO number and you do see the date. So I'm going to slide this column over here. What we should be able to do is basically match this up with our subscriptions over here. Let's see if we cancel that. Yeah, we still have this open. Good. And then I want to come here to suspended. Well, this is really my subscription listing. And I want to look at this. This orchestration is still sitting there dehydrated. And I want to look at the subscription here. And I know that we have now the ABC and the time. Let's check and see what the property is here. And this is going to be called properties message type. So over here we look for message type, and we want to know if that matches. It's http://PO schemas dot approve PO #approve PO. So that matches. Now, what about this little funny GUID right here? Okay, that's called receive port ID. That's interesting. Why is that in the subscription? And it's 8Charlie1Easy. And there's the receive port ID, 8Charlie1Easy. So, I'm still buffaloed. If this matches, and again, the GMT, it wasn't a problem before. I don't know why it'd be a problem now. That more or less matches. And this matches, and the report ID match, then it should not say I had a routing failure. Okay, I did a test while I had the video turned off, and I believe I've solved the problem. It's still not making a lot of sense to me. I went to the send ports here, and these two ports also had a pass-through. And so theoretically, since we're writing to a flat file and we're sending, I don't know why it couldn't be passed through. Yeah, I guess I do. Okay, starting to make sense now. So for correlation to work, when you send a file, you have to make sure your pipeline is also XML transmit, because I believe it's somewhere in there, maybe it's in the pipeline that actually grabs the data to set the correlation. So that's my best guess. This is kind of on the edge here. Okay, so I reran the whole scenario. Go back to HAT and I'll show you here. So at 10:39, I dropped my file. It went to the output directory. I redropped it. It came back to the same orchestration, and then the orchestration finished. Now, one thing to show you here is, in this case, HAT does not show you the sub orchestration at all. Again, another kind of funny way that Microsoft decided to handle that. Okay, so we have our own little trace again. Well, we could also look at the debugger. Let's look at both. We'll look at the orchestration debugger. Okay, so the trick is right here. You say debug view calling orchestration. And now you go back to where you were. You have to find your position again, and you can continue the trace. So now let's look at our own trace that we created. We're going to go to the trace directory and look at the last one. Sorry, let me center this on the screen. And here's our TRC 3000, pretend to call our system. And if everything would have worked like I wanted, we should have seen the TRC 8000, which remember in our sub-orchestration here, we actually did have a trace statement. But maybe the vtrace-on flag didn't get there, or maybe there was a conflict when it was trying to write to the file. So for some reason this trace didn't appear. But anyway, more or less we did see the pretend to call our system, and now we have completed this demonstration.